What's going on, guys? I want to welcome you back. We have a new card this week in Speed, who I think a lot of people are underestimating. He's probably going to be good, but kind of boring. We're going to break down Speed, his synergy, and why I think he might be the most slept-on card this month. We're also going to be talking about the massive OTA. We had another nerf apocalypse where we lost the cards that didn't get hit the week prior in the OTA, but we did have some interesting buffs. Alex and I are going to give our opinion on all of the OTA cards and what we think about them. And then lastly, guys, by popular demand, I'm bringing it back higher or lower, where I bring up different cards and win percentages, games played, and Alex and you guys are going to have to guess higher or lower than the card it's compared to. So we got a lot today in today's episode of the Snapchat. And as always, I am joined by the one, the only, Mr. Alex Coccia. Hello, my friend. We're gearing up towards 100 episodes. We've got a great week of Marvel Snap. How we doing?
Buddy, I'm doing great. I've been having a lot of fun in Snap. I've been sweeping up all of the move missions in the Alliance and then just not playing move. So I'm not contributing very much to the Alliance progression because I'm like, hey, no one wants to do them. I'll be the move gamer. And then I'm like, I actually don't want to play move. Maybe next month I'll play a bunch of move, but this month, no, not so much.
Dude, I love being in the same Alliance. Like we've got myself, we have Regis, we have the art manager director of Marvel Snap, and it's just fun to like see all this. We have like a really chatty Alliance too, which is cool to see, and just see what decks you're playing and Regis and all that good stuff. Dude, at the time of filming this, I put out a tweet, and I thought this was such a good opening discussion and it was more of like the general Marvel audience. I'm kind of getting just destroyed on Twitter for it, of characters in Marvel that you had no idea, or no one really knew they existed, and that Marvel Snap popularized, right? And so not your super fan, and we got a lot of fans that know a lot about Marvel. Okay, respect you. The general player base was what my goal was with this. Like, dude, stuff like Jeff the Baby Land Shark, or maybe Arrow, right? Did you see the tweet?
Yeah, I did see the tweet. I thought you were largely correct. I mean, a lot of these, they existed. Like Zabu, for instance, has like not even a line, because obviously it's a cat, but like Kazar's like, don't worry, Zabu, or something like in the X-Men series, like one minor little kind of showcase of them. And it's very easy to just like gloss over that, hey, that saber-toothed tiger could be a character in a card game. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, and I remember from the X-Men, and for me, it was like, okay, but he was meta-relevant. It's funny, it's the meta-relevant cards that I think, like, boosted, like Jeff and Zabu, right? Like, they got boosted because of that massively. Infinite Man, I read a lot of comics, watched all the MCU. I had no idea who Infinite was. I didn't have the slightest clue who the Teletubby was. And then what else? I had Sarah and Angela. I think those are somewhat known, but the vast majority probably knows them from Snap, no?
I think that like Darkhawk 2 is super obscure.
Yeah.
I tried to look up Darkhawk. There's only like a few comics of them, and I think that there's a lot of really obscure characters, but there's also a lot of like major characters that haven't really made it into the game either, right? We joked about Purple Man the other day, right?
Yeah.
He's not in it yet. He's like the main villain of Jessica Jones. So, hey, there's a lot to go off of here.
Hellcow. I know we both knew who Hellcow was before Snap.
Yeah, he was in a Deadpool comic, right?
Yeah, the infamous Hellcow. No, he was on the Avengers, the first one.
He was? Wait, he was in the first one? I thought he was like some vampire cow that got brought back to life or something.
No. With Thor and Captain. You don't remember like Thor and Captain going up and like, oh, Hellcow, and like they asked him to join. He was like, no.
No, I don't remember that.
Okay. Well, we have Kazar and Debris I had on there, Blue Marvel, and then yeah, you said Darkhawk. So a lot of characters that you guys may have not known. And with that, Alex, we got a lot to talk about today. Speed, the brother of Wiccan, but also what is he going to bring? And the OTA that was massive. Another nerf apocalypse, if you will. And then higher and lower. Alex and I are going to be playing the popular game, and he's finding out right now. He kept asking me all week what was the third subject. I'm like, don't worry about it. I don't want him to study up. And we changed up some of the stats for that one. So, Alex, we're talking about that over here. What are we talking about on your side of the Snapchat?
Cozy, we're going to be talking about Wiccan in review. Wiccan has come out. We're going to be giving our feedback on the card and whether or not you should be picking it up for your collection. We'll also be talking about, have there been too many nerfs and too many changes in Marvel Snap? Has it been too hard for players to keep up with the kind of like rope-a-dopes of the meta? Because, hey, we got limited resources and things keep changing fast. And then finally, as always, our Snapchat mailbag.
Well, let's jump into it. I mean, many are going to view this week as the variant week, guys. We have a beautiful Jeff the Baby Land Shark variant. I will describe it to you. I don't even have it on screen, but he's in a bathtub. He's got some rubber duckies, and he's looking villainous. And then we also have an Iron Lad variant that looks really strong. Two fantastic cards that you're going to play a lot of. and then we have speed. And so right off the bat, what, 10 out of 10 spotlight week, yeah? As far as the new cards.
He's fantastic, right? Like, I think that first of all, the Speed Flaviano variant's pretty awesome. Flaviano always slaps, but yeah, you have the Jeff variant where he has like the massive teeth, super smiley, and obviously the Iron Lad variant where he has Jeff in it. And if you don't have Jeff and Iron Lad, then like, what are we doing here? This is a great opportunity to get these two cards, right?
If you don't have those, then you don't have to be worried if you should have speed or not, because those are going to just be great to grab. If you don't know who speed is, let's break him down. There's kind of some controversy with him a bit as a card, and if he's going to be good or worth it and all that good stuff. Got a lot of thoughts on him. He's a 3-cost, 3-power card. Ongoing ability, plus 1 power for each turn that you spend all your energy, Alex. So he can get up to a 3-9 if you were to, curve out all the way, 3-10 if you do have magic in play, which we know is obviously the top tier. If you were to, happen to do that all the time, it's the top tier, which is really cool because Wiccan just came out. I think we all have a much better idea of something we didn't pay attention to a lot of, and that's how often you can actually not, or you do spend all of your energy. And so, Alex, I'm going to go ahead and put you on the spot before we break down anything about him. Star rating on speed.
You know what? I've been hovering in the 2-3 range, but I'm going to lean towards 3. The reason for this is because it's kind of interesting. He's probably a super good but boring card, right? Like, how can you not? Like, how can you shy away from a card that's likely to be 3-6, 3-7 vanilla easy on most games? And it's kind of interesting to think that, like, we've gotten so obsessed with these like high impact abilities that a lot of cards have that we're kind of just, ho-hum on straight up power sometimes. I think I might be sleeping on him a bit at 3 stars. It was just not exciting, right? You know what I mean?
He's grown for you over time because when we first talked about it, I remember you like he was hated. He was not much. 3, I respect. I do. I think you introduced it perfectly, guys. Here's the deal. I'm giving him a 4-star. The title of this is Speed is King, but he's kind of boring. Why a 4-star? Let's break it down. First of all, guys, absolutely. This reminds me, and this is not even the best example, but let's take Red Guardian, where it's this card that does something unique, but it is easily replaceable without a lot of negative connotation, right? It's not going to really affect what decks he's in and what he's going to do. He's not going to carry that deck, but I see him being used in the long term, especially in a majority of the more powerful decks within the game. 3-9 is a very good stat line, and there's some cool synergies with him, but he's boring. He's boring. He doesn't offer anything new. There's nothing. It's like Nocturne when she came out. People were, dude, even on Twitter after she came out for the whole week was like, cool, but okay, right? And now we're all, we were more than before the patch happened, but we loved Nocturne. She's one of the best cards in the game. We found that out pretty quickly. I challenge you guys to go back to Nocturne Week and take a look at what a lot of people had to say, because she was more of a boring card that was really strong. And I think speed can't be compared to Nocturne, but it is somewhat in the same ballpark where he will be used in more decks. But Wiccan, who came out last week, super unique and does something new for the game, but probably not as relevant later on.
It's so interesting to think about how speed, while I think ultimately powerful from a power perspective, he doesn't synergize with much, right? Like, there's not much you need where like, oh, speed is the cog that makes this wheel turn. Wiccan needed cogs to make the Wiccan play work, right? There's a lot of cards that kind of really propel specific archetypes, and speed doesn't really do that. He's so vanilla in his power output that it feels not exciting, but at the same time, okay, think about it. If he's a 3-7 on average, I'm just throwing that number out there. Are you happy with that?
I would say he is going to be near a 3.6 to 3.7 on average. Yeah. Oh, absolutely, dude. I mean, it's zero downside. Zero downside, right? There are cards that you can't play late. You can't play on curve. Sage. Sage is a great example. We love Sage, right? But you kind of have to hold on to Sage to get her to that respectable stat line. You can play him on curve. I think that's his best thing. And the best, his best use is going to be you can play him whenever, set it, forget it, good stats.
Yeah, the fact that he's an ongoing is actually a bit of a superpower because it makes him invulnerable to something like Shadow King. He's unlikely to hit the heights of something like a Shang-Chi, right? And if they rogue him or something, then like it's likely they have not been playing with this effect in mind, so their trade-off is probably limited. They might go to like, oh, their rogue might gain a couple power points or whatever. And if they Enchantress it, he's still just a 3/3 at the end of the day. Like he has all these mitigating factors from like a downside perspective, which kind of props him up a little bit.
Boring, but super safe. There's so many things like that in the world that we say it all the time. That's exactly his definition. We used to think so much, is Polaris worth it? I don't know, 3/5, but then it moves a card. Maybe that can hurt you. 3/5 is very manageable with speed. That's going to happen all the time. And that was what the old threshold used to be of a top tier 3-cost card. I think this guy will last and will be in the meta. I think 4-star. I don't care if he's not revolutionizing Snap, but he is a good card. And luckily, he comes in a good week. So let's break down why we think he's going to be good, the decks we think he's going to be good in. Obviously, his brother is going to be the most immediate synergy in Wiccan. Kind of. I still think Wiccan decks are, even still to this point in time of filming, getting figured out. Very unique card in the game. There is one camp that is pro Quicksilver Domino, other camps where you just plug them into decks, and if you curve out, great. Wiccan, we'll talk more on your side, but I think Wiccan, clearly, you're already trying to do this in the most difficult spot to fill in Wiccan decks, or the most difficult cost to make sure you get down is the 3, right? Because you don't have something that automatically plays on 3. Now you got the brother in speed, which is a perfect fit.
It'll be interesting to see that if Wiccan's effect actually helps speed or not, because that extra 2 power might make it be like, or 2 energy, I should say, might be like, hey, I'm floating 2 energy because I don't have the cards in hand to actually utilize it all properly, which happens in Snap, right? Card games are about variance, right? About drawing the cards. If you drew them in the exact order you wanted every time, well, the game would be boring as heck, right? So I think that variance might be pretty interesting to talk about as well.
That is a good point. There is plenty of, there's like so much energy that you almost are never going to get a 3/9 because Wiccan, it's tough to use all of that up. I found that, plenty on like turn 5. Turn 6, I could somehow squeeze it out with like a couple of good plays. But yeah, fully agree there. For me, the one that I want to talk about, the one that has had, a boost up, especially since a massive OTA to one of the cards. But in general, I think Speed's best home by a long shot is going to be in the good old ongoing Spectrum decks. He is kind of everything you're looking for in a package for this deck. He's a low-cost card. There's plenty of cheap cards to play in Spectrum. You have Ant-Man, Armor, you've got Goose, you've got all these ones, right, that are just fantastic to curve out, right? And Speed is just going to be added to that. If you only get it to a 3/7, it goes to a 3/9. It's just going to be a perfect card that does curve out well, and I think this will be its best home. And alongside Spectrum, just because this goes in that deck, Alex, I think my favorite synergy that's often being forgotten about, this card is never played, is Goose. I think this is a card with immense power that can sneak into Goose, and I love the synergy here with Spectrum.
Buddy, it's like you've literally Gene Grayed my mind, because there were 2 very specific decks. I was like, this card's going to slap in, and this is absolutely one of them. I love the call out here. I was actually playing a ton of Thanos ongoing, and it got me thinking about, like, whoa, ongoing is actually pretty fun. And then I started thinking about like speed and how I can integrate it with that, with Captain America, giving him +2 there. And then I started thinking, hey, there's actually quite an easy line for getting your ongoings out on curve. The only tricky one's the first slot, right? It almost makes you want to run your Howard the Duck or something, so you have like a turn 1 play, because like if you're planning on spectruming at the end of the game, that Howard does get that +2 like everyone else does, right? And so like I feel like if you build this very nice curve style deck with ongoing, you're right, like you have Gooses, you have all these cards that really do curve effectively, in particular at the low end, and then you just run Spectrum at the end of it. I think you could legitimately and very easily get speed to high power levels.
And the thing is, this is like a strategy as old as time with Snap, is this deck can get pretty big, pretty wide. It doesn't go extremely tall, so there are some matchups that can be tough for it. And so you kind of need this control factor. Goose is so powerful here, and we have 2 important cards that Speed will be played in. My thought is you play Goose, you play Speed into that Goose lane, and then how do you protect another lane from your opponent just wiping the floor with you? Well, it's a card that none of us get to play because not a lot of people had them. But I think U.S. Agent is such a perfect card to control another lane, right? So you've got the Goose lane with your big buildup, and then U.S. Agent is keeping the fort down for the other lane that you then build up with your cheap cost cards. And I think there's plenty of ones that can be played like Ant-Man as well.
If you think about that -4 power on US Agent, it's actually pretty impactful and incredible. If you take pretty much any 6 drop in the game, or any, I mean, 4, 5, and 6, and you just straight up take 4 power off them, that card is suddenly very much like not as enticing as it prior was. That's a big hit. When you also consider the fact that it's a fair stated body at 2/3, it also gets hit by Spectrum, then suddenly you've got a really, really decent card. And when utilized with Goose, you're able to say, hey, you can't play 4s and 5s here, and if you play it here, you're going to get punished, right? I really do like this call out Cozy, because US Agent's been one of those cards. It's coming back in a Spotlight cache, by the way. So if you're lamenting that you didn't get US Agent somehow, and again, a very fast buff candidate, this was a card that came out a little weaker and got buffed pretty significantly. But yeah, I think that this is a good spot for him.
I feel like, too, one strategy people don't realize in ongoing is, even though they're not on reveal, you want to save a lot of these cards for later, right? For me, when playing a lot this week, US Agent, I would wait till like turn 5, because that swing, right, where your opponent thinks they're killing you and they know what you're doing. Okay, you got the Ant-Man out, they can kind of figure it out. The powerful turn 5 into the Spectrum 6 can seal the deal. US Agent with a speed on 5, where you've used your energy up, all of a sudden you have not only potential 12 power that you can Spectrum up another 4 points, you go in 16 power plus the -4 swing on the other side. And we both know it, any card tech-wise especially that works into the deck that you're doing anyway, in this case Luke Cage, it's just a beautiful melody that I'm just excited. I think it's going to be Speed's best home by far.
And the nice thing about Speed is, again, that ongoing being a superpower, it's going to track the fact that you've played your energy on curve. So if you play Speed on turn 5 with US Agent, he's going to bounce up in power, and like the same way Null would, for instance, right? And I think that's adds to the flexibility. You spoke prior to the fact that Sage was the kind of card you had to hold back. Sage might have higher upside, right? And bounce and stuff like that. It can very easily get to like 14, 16, 18 power, but you're not able to play it out early the way you can with Speed. Speed gives you that like variability of when you play it, how you play it, and it has this very consistent tick up of power. Moreover, your opponent will not be able to reliably anticipate what power Speed will be, because, I mean, hey, we've all lost games by 1 power, right? And so whether or not you actually play completely on curve and get Speed that extra 1 power might be the difference in any given situation.
Yeah, and just to remind you guys, with Spectrum, I mean, the possibility of a 311 is insane. I mean, that is such a crazy stat line on curve as well, right? Clearly, you're going to want it on curve if you're playing things. And there's just not a lot of decks that have that not even a ton of 1 and 2 costs to play, but that you don't need the expensive cards, right? Like, even how you play Spectrum in the past, it's mainly throwing it up with all these cheap Ant-Mans and all these cheap cards. Like, we sort by ongoing, and I click 1s and 2s. Right off the bat, I mean, Armor, super great tech card to easily counter destroy, super mega popular archetype at the moment, right? Lizard works with Luke Cage if you want to go the negative route. Mojo, tremendous. You got a 2/8 that can get up to a 2/10, curves into Speed. It's all these small cards, Alex, that I think is just going to be the home, because I don't know about you, but after playing Wiccan a lot, I have a much better idea which cards I like in my early decks to have a better chance, like obviously the Season Pass card, Kate Bishop.
Yeah, and it's funny because like we kind of talked about prior about like, you have Quicksilver and Domino, and is that hopium to play those 2 cards? And I actually tend to think it is, because like, I don't think Speed needs those cards, right? It's also important to note that unlike Wiccan, Speed is not going to require you to chain together the consistent plays. If you happen to miss 1 and then you play on curve 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Speed doesn't care, and that's fine. He'll just, you lose 1 power, but you're getting it everywhere else. Whereas Wiccan, like the effect now is just a 4/7. Right? Yeah. So I do think that allows you to be more creative with your deck building. And in an ongoing deck, maybe, I mean, if you're going to play Mojo, you're probably playing Jean Grey, which that might, I don't know, man. My experience, Jean Grey was a little copey.
Oh, I love Jean,
but at the same time, buddy, she actually did pretty good with the new Man-Thing, right? Like, I thought new Man-Thing was, that's another card that just got buffed, right? Well, Man-Thing, so
yeah,
we got cards to play with.
We're going to talk about it in the OTA section. We might as well just talk about him now. Man-Thing, dude, the 4/7 stat line's real. Like 4/7's a new 3/5. We're seeing a lot of 4/7s creep out there, but his swing potential now is real. I mean, it actually is real. And think about it, -2 on all the cheap cards, which are mega popular at the moment. All of a sudden, you're having this massive swing in power where you can have up to a -8 on that side. He's a 4/15 if things go right.
I was trying to do this like copium stuff where I was basically putting Colossus in a lane and then Jean Grang and then putting the what's it called, the man thing there, and I was like, oh, maybe that's just debuffing Jean Grey's not a big deal. So it didn't quite work the way I wanted to. Colossus is still difficult to fit into decks, but what's interesting here is every single time there's an ongoing card added to the game, the same way Speed is going to. It's an additional tool for spectrum-based decks and ongoing-based decks, right? And I do think that right now, in particular, people are not expecting them. With the release of Speed, they might be, but I think spectrum decks in particular are very good at attacking multiple locations at once. Because if you have 4 ongoing cards in one with Jean Grey, Mojo, and stuff like that, and then you play Spectrum, it's an additional 8 power into a location if there's 4 cards there, right?
Yeah.
The only thing that it's missing is like that zoo style, like Squirrel Girl effect of ongoing cards. It doesn't have that. So you're often trying to fixate on 2 specific ones. But then you got Claw, where you can get creative with, right? I think that like this card is going to be ideal in these types of decks.
And there's so many ways to play that archetype, right? I think this is such a good puzzle piece for ongoing, because the thing is, you mentioned it earlier that I think I don't want to undermine here, guys. There's not a lot of count. I get Enchantress and Rogue exist. They're not played much. They're just simply not played much. And so you have very little. And he reminds me of like Kyera, where are you going to use the Enchantress on Speed? Probably not. I mean, even those Spectrum decks can have Wong in them where you have the double Spectrum pop-off, right? And they can only use these cards one time. And you're probably not going to use it on Speed. Now, does Speed go in the lane where Jean Grey is? Where is it going to go? Again, I think it's going to be Goose at the end of the day. But you truly only have one shot in the dark of a Rogue to be able to counter it at that point. But yes, I like him. I think he's really solid in those builds. Ongoing, we have a lot more to talk about some other synergies here, but I do want to say, because this card doesn't have another deck, I just wanted to mention it in the ongoing section. This is a card that you can't make better or worse. It's going to kind of be stuck here, in my opinion. It's never been super, super meta, but I think that Valkyrie is a really cool speed option. We've seen in the past where Valkyrie gets to do these really cool swing turns, right? But you got to make sure you have an ongoing card to make sure that that works. Well, Speed is the perfect candidate of staying exactly how he is when Valkyrie does her ability.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you would play something like an Ant-Man into that location with Wasp, right? Wasp with Valkyrie, right? So, like, I absolutely agree. And Valkyrie is one of those cards that is criminally underplayed. It's one of my favorite cards in the game that, like, I try to sneak into decks, but it's so tricky to play around it. It's looking for very specific style of play. And I do like this call out a lot because anything that has ongoing power, this effect is just is not relevant to it, right? It doesn't boost it. It won't boost Speed the way it'll boost Ant-Man or Wasp, but it'll still get the job done for sure, while obviously negating whatever your opponent played.
Any other synergies? I've got one more, but I'll pass it to you. Any other synergies you might have?
Yeah, and I meant to say as well, Ghost is technically an ongoing card too. So if you want to get Ghost into an ongoing deck and then play Valkyrie, there might be a little hope there. I'm going to say that I actually think he might be good in Surfer. I mean, we'd be remiss not to bring up Surfer. It seems obvious, but one thing that's worth noting is that we do have versions of Surfer that are playing consistent 4-drops like Wiccan and, more importantly, Gwenpool. They've been performing very well, so you have this very natural curve. The only challenge with Silver Surfer is that most Silver Surfer decks tend to only play 1/1-drop as like a Nova, for instance, and then they play 2/2-drops like something that, like, usually like a Jeff or some sort of White Widow, or, good 2-drops. But it's very easy to miss those first 2 turns. But even if you do, right? Even if you do miss those first 2 turns, in theory, you're playing 3 100%. So now it goes to a 3/4 speed. You're playing on 4 with Gwenpool or whatever. He goes to a 3/5. You play Sarah on 6. He's a 3/6. You're gonna play 3/3-drops on turn 6. So he goes up again. And then he gets buffed by the Silver Surfer.
He's a 3/7. That's gonna be a 3/9 anyway. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. Like, in the perfect world, you get the Nova and you maybe get to curve out, and then he's a 3/11, or he's a 3/9 worst potential with the Surfer play. I think we try not to analyze every 3-cost card as a Surfer card, bud, but I think you're right. I think this will work in Surfer pretty solid most of the time as just a great static card. Again, no downside, right? Sage didn't work in Surfer as much because it's kind of awkward. You got to still figure that out. This is just going to blend on it, and dare I say it, do you remember the old Surfer list with Goose? Back in the day, they used to play a good amount, if I recall.
Buddy, I used to play a ton of Goose. The challenge was when Kitty Pride came out, people were able to slide under Goose so effectively, right? I used to love Goose because it just completely shut down locations. And then you could even have Goose in one lane, turn 3, you play like Storm in another, and then you Juggernaut the Storm turn 4, and then they can't even play on the Goose
So
location.
that is my last synergized card I had was Storm, and that's how I got to Surfer in the first place. You already have Goose, that's a control element. You have Storm now, that's a control element. They avoid the Brood lane, because I don't care what you can do. You're going to lose the Brood lane against a Surfer deck most of the time. Even if you just put speed on the Storm lane, it's like, good luck. He's just going to build up over time, and then you have a double boost on that. I think Goose, control Surfer, if you will, could make its return with this.
And dude, absolutely. But not just that. Like, think about this line. It's so straightforward, right? Turn 3 Brood, turn 4 Absorbing Man, turn 5 Sarah, turn 6, you're playing speed with whatever else. Like, it's just such a natural power bump. And you kind of brought it up before where it's like, are you really going to play an Enchantress for speed? Like, are you going to, like, is speed scary enough that you're going to try and counter speed specifically? Like, I actually don't think so. Yep. Like, when Annihilus came out, White Widow came out, like, people were like, okay, this card does something scary that I can maybe deal with. But with speed, it's like, it's kind of just power. Like, are you actually going to run an Enchantress for a speed?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I know it's again, he might be boring, but he's going to serve. It's like Nocturne in the sense that he's going to serve in a lot of decks as a really cool cog. You could have gotten away without getting Nocturne. Yes, she's one of the best cards in the game. It was, but you could have gotten away with it. Speed, you can still get away with it, but I think he's going to be a 4-star card for that reason. Hopefully after we pump some more conversation to it, you guys are starting to realize that speed could be king, and he comes in a great spotlight at that. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. Last, I always hate to do this, guys, but I got to. I have to say this. If you don't get him, you're probably looking pretty good on day one by just slipping in a little guy known as Super Scroll. Have your opponent do all they want to do with Spectrum decks, and then just take it all. Got to say, for those that aren't going to get speed, it's the only fair thing to say at this point. This is probably going to be your best counter on the opening days, Alex, if I were recalling. Anything else to close out speed, or did we nail it? Did I change your opinion on him?
No, I mean, I've been gradually going up. I'm still staying at 3 stars. You have kind of drifted me up. If I could like cheat and do the 3.5, I will. Like, I'm good with 3 stars. I think he is going to be better. I don't want to say he's boring, because his power boring. It's kind of how you win games of Marvel Snap. But I want to just give a special shout out to the Super Scroll call. Right now, current number 1 deck in the meta is Zoo, right? We got Zoo really doing great stuff right now, and Super Scroll answers that. It answers speed. It answers null. Man, you can win tons of cubes with Super Scroll, so great call, Cozy.
Thanks, buddy. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and transition. Also, we could have gone deeper and talked about Onslaught and stuff that probably you're not going to do as much, but, you know, decided not to go with the Onslaught speed option. But let's go ahead and talk about the OTA. We had a massive OTA yet again where we saw we kind of called it last week where we saw a bunch of nerfs happen. And we're like, man, it kind of seems like there was a couple cards that survived, right? And they made up for it. We're going to talk about that in more detail on Alex's side, but what I will say is I think it's becoming easier to tell what cards are probably not going to last as long. If you go to a cost and it makes it brain dead simple to click a card, it's probably not going to last forever, right? I think that we've seen that. But let's start on the buff side, then we'll go to the nerf side. Thanos, the Mad Titan, Mr. Inevitable, summer's over. They decided, screw it, let's bring him back. They brought the Mind Stone back to where it was. What do you think about the new Thanos?
I think it's a huge buff. I'm glad they took this approach. I think the new Thanos has been very fun to play.
Yeah.
I prefer this version of Thanos. I'm not talking about win rates. The win rate's not there yet. I'm talking about the actual gameplay. Mm-hmm. I like the idea that Thanos is a important piece to this puzzle. Before it felt like Thanos felt like a card. It felt like High Evolutionary, where it's like you don't actually want to play High Evo in a High Evo deck. Like, why are you playing Thanos? You're never getting them to 20. Yeah. But the new stones, the way they work, how they're all in service to Thanos, makes a lot of sense to me. This is a huge buff, but I do not think it pushed him just far enough to be meta relevant. I think he is okay. I don't think he's good yet.
I think that it's easier to have better games with him, and the draw lines are simpler. When you get the Mind Stone, it's very straightforward that you have a great chance to win the game at that point in time. Thanos being in your starting hand has reduced that dramatically. So we're not like at the Thanos of old, but he's hyper better. He's much better, and he's starting to do what we all loved about him, and that's like you could create so many different deck builds with him, even if they're not like the best in the game. You know, I did a destroy one, and it's like, hey, it was pretty solid. It did its work really well, and it was a lot of fun to play. Also, being the most important factor, and so I think this is a really healthy spot for Thanos at the moment. There are always cards that are going to take him over the edge. We've seen that. Mockingbird still doing her thing, you know, whatever. But yeah, I think Thanos in the Mind Stone was a hyper buff to the card, but he's not the deck right now.
No, and I don't know if they want him to be the deck again. Like, it's kind of soon. It's also worth noting that the Lockjaw power nerf, cost nerf was not reverted. So when Thanos was going absolutely insane, you had Lockjaw at 3 cost, which is a very different situation, right? Than Lockjaw at 4. So Thanos Lockjaw does not feel nearly as consistent as it used to. I actually liked the ongoing version because now so many of the stones are ongoing, and you can get Thanos out on turn 5. Right, with a time stone, and you slap Spectrum down turn 6. I'm telling you, I loved the deck. I actually did.
Yeah, the ongoing Thanos, Lockjaw Thanos, Destroy. You can have a lot of fun with him. Airsham, you can put him in there. Definitely worth getting more than he was even just a couple weeks ago. Outside that, in the buff department, we had Man-Thing that we already talked about. But let's talk about Lady Deathstrike, who I don't think we really had on our radar as someone that was going to get buffed up, right? Like, I don't know if I was like, she desperately needs it. I still think she's a vastly underplayed card, and the reason I made the Destroy Thanos deck was, man, does she solve some answers to the meta right now? In Zoo, in Kyra, Marvel Boy, killing Marvel Boy, Athena early. I think she's much better than people give her credit for.
This was a perfect buff. I mean, I'm ignoring the whole idea that an expensive bundle came into the store just prior to the buff.
Dude, I saw that too.
It's kind of like the optics of that's a little sus sometimes, but I will tell you, you hit it on the nail on the head, Cozy. We haven't been using that one in a while. Zoo's pretty strong right now. It's very strong. We just alluded to the fact that it's a top tier performer, and instead of like nerfing Blue Marvel, nerfing Gilgamesh, nerfing Zoo, and all that stuff, buff the counterplays, buff Man-Thing, which eats Zoo for breakfast, buff LDS. These are great approaches to balancing the meta, right? These cards are underplayed, and they will counter the thing that's being played right now if given a little bit more leash, you know what I mean? Yeah. I thought these 2 changes were by far the best changes they made in a while. I wanted LDS to get buffed for that exact reason. You have a very good play to solve a problem that you might have in the meta.
And, we joke that 4-7 and 3-5 are the new stat lines, but they kind of are. So, like, I'm, totally okay with them experimenting with doing more of these cards in that capacity, and excited to see what else we got. Lastly, we had Watu last time. I can't believe that he's here. Angel, my friends. Angel is now a 2-3. And he's still Angel. He still is Angel. But they did state that this is the beginning of a beautiful, hopeful buff relationship to the card. And I actually played hours of this in my Destroy deck. I'm telling you, Alex, if he does stay in your deck and you kill him and you're able to build up a lane really quickly and you can get up to like 17 with Bucky, Carnage, and him, and he thins out your decks to get your Death and Null, dude, in those curve lines, call it Copium, he did his job really well.
Yeah, you just don't want to draw him, essentially. Yeah. You really don't want to draw him. And if you do, 2-3 is like, he's basically just vanilla. I mean, he comes out of your hand. He's not that bad. He's bad. He's still bad, but he has the chance to be cracked if he stays in that damn deck. Because it's the Chavez effect, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's that. And I think I don't know if he stays at 2. The cost just doesn't matter, right? Because he already loses his value there. So do you make him a 4? Like, what do you do with it to make it really matter to get him to swoop out there for free? But then you have to balance that. You have to balance that. You can't get him too good, right? So I think this is a good start for the card, though.
We need a Lockjaw for Destroy. You send Angel into the Lockjaw, then destroy the Lockjaw, and Angel comes flying back out.
Yeah, right, dude. I want them to keep trying here, but I liked it. And like the best example I could give is in the Thanos deck. The reason I liked that so much is Lady Deathstrike killing Bucky Barnes was fantastic, and you can have that synergy. I miss playing Bucky. It was cool to play Bucky again. But on top of that, you already needed some good things to happen in that deck, like the Mind Stone and whatnot. So this added to it. Like you had either the Mind Stone or Angel stayed in. And then you could start doing some kind of cool synergistic plays with it. And if you didn't understand it, it was a bad deck. If you did, then you probably did okay with it. But anyway, yeah, Angel, just glad to see they're finally giving love to these cards that we have just been mocking forever.
And I just want to say, like, I got to give you some credit. You went to town on that cook. Like,
The
that was
cook.
an absolutely remarkable cook. And we need to be creative sometimes. I think that, like, creative solutions for newly buffed cards are the most fun. And you absolutely embraced that with that cook. No one else was doing that except Cozy Snap. And I really like that video.
I appreciate it, man. I played 6 hours, and I played really good Lockjaw ongoing decks, like so many. And I was like, gonna produce the video, and I'm like, you know what? Like, let's do something fun. Let's do something a little bit different, and that counters the meta right now. Zeus so hot. How do I get Killmonger in the game that naturally works, right? And try to get this card to work, right? And give him purpose. I appreciate the shout out there. So really large patch of both buffs. The nerf wise, let's get to that, man. We had Cassandra Nova and Erisham, both of them get trimmed a bit. Cassandra went down to a 3-0, but kind of buffed because Erisham got nerfed by getting more cards in his deck. Let's talk about the Erisham and Cassandra nerfs.
It was interesting to me to think that, like, okay, they nerf Cassandra, they also nerf Erisham. Erisham kind of got double hit here to some degree because, first of all, let's not forget that Leech got hit last week, so they took a bullet for Erisham, and then you had the Dr. Octopus took a bullet for Erisham. They should have always probably had the Erisham dial of add more cards in. I think it's still definitely good. There's no question about it. But it is notable that they nerfed Erisham and decided they had to bring Cassandra Nova down as well. But Cassandra Nova was absolutely cracked.
Yeah, I think it doesn't change her influence on the game, doesn't change what she does. I mean, keep in mind, yeah, she's a 3-6. But, dude, the drain effect was fantastic. The way that you can manipulate that. I think they want to avoid doing these, like, kind of catch-all, put her in anything kind of thing, and she still is. She's still very good. Erisham, still extremely fun. I agree. Nocturne, listen, the stats didn't lie. Nocturne was in that same effect that we saw White Widow in, Thena in, and Thena going down, and her going down is fine. I think it's fine. I think Nocturne is going to get affected a bit more than Thena was because just the nature of it. But thoughts on Nocturne, thoughts on Thena?
I was surprised to see Nocturne's nerf, honestly.
Okay.
But keep in mind, this is a card that I've never liked.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'll be honest, it's just a card that I've never liked.
It's true.
I wasn't playing Nocturne in a lot of my decks. Even if, like, I saw higher win rate decks with Nocturne in my personal brews and versions, I never used Nocturne. I just didn't like the card.
Okay.
If Limbo was a major prevalent factor, like if she not made a comeback, then yeah, I'm bringing Nocturne in for sure. But for me, just as a vanilla 3-5 that moved and screwed me half the time, I was like, I'm just not interested. So I was personally surprised. But at the same time, for everyone else except me, apparently, this card is absolutely top tier. It was performing exceptionally well. I do think that the stat line hurts it though. It does, but it's still making a lot of top tier decks.
At the end of the day, the things that make movement is been proven to be just the best ability. And the cheap cards at that. So we've seen it, Jeff. We have Nocturne. And it's just a simple answer of the relevance of junk decks. But more importantly is changing your mind, switching your battle plan, and being able to have your opponent all of a sudden not know where you're going to go, what you're going to do. It counters control. It counters so many different things. And it's just such a powerful synergistic ability that it doesn't need premium stats to back it up, right? I mean, Jeff is Jeff for that reason. So I think that's why it's so good. It does have the small con of the random replacement, but also isn't a con all the time. It can be a huge help as well, a huge pro condition. And so, yeah, I mean, I think this will settle in to be an okay buff, but do pour one out for the C5 fans.
Yeah, and pour one out for people that invested their tokens, which, I mean, it's basically what our second point of conversation on the other side is, right? It's like, these nerfs, like they hit people in the pants sometimes, right? And it's unfortunate. So I'm sure Nocturne will come back up shortly.
Yeah, I was saving a lot of that for your subject, man. Last we have Sandman, who, I think Sandman, his rate has not gone down, dude. He's still been played a lot. That's why I did the Lady Death track with the Patriot version. And I said it on the video. I'm like, you know what? Do whatever you want to this guy. Just leave Ultron alone. So I'm not mad. Sandman got taken down a hit, and he was like one of the few toxic cards to survive.
That was exactly what I said too. Like, if they had to choose between Sandman and Ultron, take out Sandman. Like, leave Ultron alone. Ultron Patriot is still something that, like, you could cope with a little bit, and I still think it's okay, but this version of Sandman was strong. It's also notable that the top tier Sandman deck actually lost Nocturne's power as well. and Sandman's power. So that deck took a 2-power hit at once because Nocturne was making those decks because, as you said, movement in a deck where you can only play 1 card on turn 6 is kind of useful, right? So so that deck did get knocked down a bit. It was at the top of the meta for a couple weeks, and now it's kind of dwindled into the middle of the pack, but still running impressive win rates overall. So Sandman is still viable. There's no question about it. But like, I'll actually ask you, Cozy. I found that Sandman wasn't actually that bad for me. The decks I was playing, I didn't worry too much about Sandman. What was your experience like?
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought I was semi-shocked how fast it happened. Like, they really tackled him pretty quickly. I thought there's enough answers for him. I think I would have rather them do the Nocturne route first, and then we kind of see how that affected everything. But they did the double hit, and I think it's just for them to send the message of like, we do not negotiate with toxic cards. Like, they just want to get rid of cards that feel bad to play against. But for myself, I agree. Before we go into higher or lower, I wanted to ask you, thoughts on new Loki? He's been out here for a little bit now. General thoughts.
My thoughts are so complex with Loki. He's good. There's no question from a win rate perspective. He's good. I don't like playing him as much, which is kind of sad. Like he's in Airsham decks. There's a couple different versions of decks that are running him. I'm not convinced that I like this version better, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure how I feel about Loki right now.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm having as much fun playing him.
I think he's a bit too plug and play. I liked at least in the old version, he had his own identity. And this, it's like, okay, my deck's not doing good. I'm going to take your deck, see how I do, draw a card, have a 3/5, and all but delete Crystal from the game. But yeah, I want to see kind of what happens with Loki. New variant was fire, I will say that. And I think Loki, no matter what happens, he's going to remain just a great card in the game, unless they Zabu him. But I don't think that is going to happen. But with that, guys, speed is king. OTA patch. You guys have asked for us to return a popular game show segment in higher or lower, and Mr. Alex Coccia is our contestant yet again. I know, Alex, you love being put on the hot seat here. If you guys do not know how this segment works, I'll be saying 2 cards with some type of statistic, and Alex is going to say higher or lower than the card it's compared to. And this is both for you guys to yell to the ether play alongside it. But Alex, you are on the hot seat, my friend. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm glad that you didn't tell me we were doing this until we started recording.
That was the goal. That was the goal. I'm actually, but so last time in a hurry, I had a higher as on the bottom of the screen and lower, and people were absolutely, they didn't know what to do. They were besides themselves. So I will leave it here, and you guys can now see it is higher and then lower. All right, Alex, our first field of statistics is going to be who is played more. All right, I'm going to give you a card, then a card. You can tell me higher or lower who has played more last. I'm not going to give you the stats because it mixed it up a bit, so you can't have a list up or anything like that. Keep it honest on his side. Let's start with the first one. Shang-Chi, higher or lower than Mockingbird last 30 days? Last 30 days.
Last 30 days? I almost want to say Mockingbird, but it still has to be Shang-Chi, right? I would say Shang-Chi final answer.
Shang-Chi final answer. More than Mockingbird, one of the most popular cards in the game right now.
Yeah, stop trying to like bait me into switching my answer.
I'm just having a conversation, I'm just trying to inspire some thought-provoking questions. It is correct, sir. Starting off on the heater, guys, 258,993 compared to Mockingbird is less than half of that. So Shang-Chi, doesn't matter if Zoo is meta, Shang-Chi is still staying towards the top of the deck in games seen overall. Next up, we've got another comparison to Mockingbird, okay? Mockingbird or Copycat?
Oh, man, last 30 days?
Last 30 days.
Okay, that's a tricky one. I played way more Copycat. But I think in general, I would say Mockingbird would be higher here, Cozy. I'm hoping to go 2 for 2 here because last time we started off pretty rough and I had to recover. But I'm hoping Mockingbird sends me off and running.
Final answer?
I see you're trying to trick me. You're playing mind games.
Yes, are you sure?
Answer. I am sure.
Alex, I was trying to help you that time. Guys, Copycat is actually played a good amount more than Mockingbird, which is shocking. Copycat is number 2 right now on the entire list of games seen in decks and played over Mockingbird. How wild is that? A popular card.
I can't believe that. So Copycat played by no, it's being played more than Mockingbird. That's actually crazy. I would never have taken that considering where Zoo is right now.
That was one of the ones that probably shocked me the most. And coincidentally, the only one I did not have the stats on. Here we go. I got the stats here. Okay, so Mockingbird was at 127,335. Copycat, 6,000 games more than that, which is absolutely wild considering Mockingbird also came out way before. So, yeah, shocking statistic. I think it just goes to show that people are loving the Copycat. 1-1 for Mr. Alex. Guys, let's see if we can keep it up. Who has been seen? Who has been played more? Mystique, higher or lower than Killmonger?
Oh, man, that's so hard. That's so hard because Mystique has seen a massive resurgence. If it's the last 30 days, that would include the blob gameplay that we were seeing with Arishem, right? Is it 30 days?
Yes, 30 days.
Damn, so that makes it even harder. My heart of heart tells me it's Skillmonger. Skillmonger should be seeing more play, but Destroy as a whole is not seeing that much in the current meta, despite the fact that Zeus as popular as it is. I'm going to go on a limb here and say, I'm going to say Mystique if we're going last 30 days, and I think it's close.
You sure?
You Cozy.
He's like, Alex, he knows the game. He knows the game well. You are correct. Mystique virtually not played at all for a long time. Mystique was played, though, way more with all the blob madness. 96,000 over Killmonger's 84,000, which I think Killmonger just got that big spike even in the last 10 days, 20 days with the new season. Was probably well above Mystique before that. So you are correct. Mystique higher than Killmonger. I bet you a lot of people actually got stumped on that one, but not you, Alex. You are 2-1, my friend. Keep it up, and you might get that new car again. I owe you the other new car.
Can't wait to get that new car.
Yeah, I owe you the other new car. All right, let's go to the next one. Venom or Iron Man?
Oh, man, that's so hard.
Is Venom higher or lower than Iron Man?
Okay, next time I'm doing this to you. This is ridiculous.
Okay.
Put me on the spot. I mean, I love Ravonna, but Ravonna's kind of fallen off, and with Ravonna comes Iron Man. But Venom is central to Destroy, but I feel like Destroy has not been played as much. It's similar to what I said about Skillmonger, right?
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to go out there and say that it's Iron Man is going to be played more than Venom because I still feel like Tribunal is a go-to deck at higher echelons of the MMR.
I was gonna give you some crap if you didn't stick with your same sentiment you just had about Destroy not being played as much. So you are correct. Venom at 60,000 is lower than Iron Man at 75,000. Tribunal decks, Ravonna decks being the most popular. Alex Coccia 3-1. 3-1, guys. We'll see if he lasts. We got some tough ones coming up, but I'm proud. I'm impressed, man. Are you shocked with your own results over here?
Yes, I'm shocked. I was expecting to go 0-4.
I'm going to be doing a game show, a massive one, and you'll be on it, of course. And you're going to already have a leg up, man, because you already know some of my tells, all right? Maybe
That's
you could
right,
read
but
me.
I'm just staring at you. I'm just figuring out, what's his tell? Is his eye twitching? You know what I mean? Is he smiling? Is he smirking a little more than usual?
Maybe not.
You gotta wear sunglasses next time.
How about the two legends of the 6-cost cards? Doctor Doom, higher or lower in terms of played or game seen than Magneto?
And okay, that's hard. That's hard because Magneto comes and goes so often, but Doctor Doom has had this very consistent drip. He spiked the most with Miss Marvel, but then he kind of fell off a little bit. Damn it, Cozy. I'm actually not sure on this one. This is a bit more of a... Can I call in a hint, Cozy?
Can you call in a hint? Let me ask the studio audience says go F yourself.
All right. Thank you very much, studio audience. I do appreciate that. If I had to guess, which this one is very hard for me, I don't see any meta tell on this one. I would venture to say that Doctor Doom is ever so slightly more popular than Magneto.
Lock it in. Final answer.
I'm going to lock this one in, but
Okay.
I'm not confident.
He's not confident. He went back and forth. This is a tough one because you got two cards that are kind of plug and playable, but you mentioned Doctor Doom had the slow drip, and my friend, slow drip indeed. He actually is well above. He's 10,000 games over Magneto. Doctor Doom higher, and I really want to know. I wish I could beam into y'all's heads. If you guys got that one correct, I think more people probably went with Magneto, but I feel like I played Doctor Doom much more, even though Magneto has a good place in a lot of decks at the moment. Doctor Doom is higher correct. Two more in this category. We move on to the next. Invisible Woman or Professor X?
I'm going to say that Invisible Woman's being played more often than Professor X. That's just a feel I have. But she's not even making Tribunal decks anymore. She's certainly not being played in Hell. I don't know where she's being played. I just don't think Professor X is being played at all. really. I mean, listen, I'm the biggest Ravona gamer out here, and I don't put Professor X in those decks. I can't actually. Now that I think about it, is he even a 1 cost or 1 power still? I can't even remember what his stat line is. He's so irrelevant.
Are you playing Invisible Woman?
I sometimes.
No,
I'm not. I'm not playing either of these cards. In fact, he's a 5-2 right now, isn't he, Professor X?
Dude, I couldn't tell you. I think he's 5'2". Yeah, he's 5'2".
See, that's okay. See, I'm not crazy, right?
And I had to go back and
definitely,
check.
I think Invisible Woman's seeing more play than Professor X. He's just dead.
Is Professor X dead, guys? Do you agree with Alex? Lock in your answers. Alex, correct. Barely, kind of. 1,500 games over. Invisible Woman I meant to say Invisible Woman is 1,500 above Professor X. And we move on, my friend, to the next segment in this, which is when played. All right, we're going to be talking about winning percentages when these cards have been played on the board. Do you feel like you'll know this better or worse than just the popularity of the cards, Alex?
This might be more challenging.
Okay.
Because this is a much more niche statistic, I think.
You're 5-1, so you're on the heater, man. You're absolutely just hitting the home runs. You would have to have a colossal downfall, my friend, to not walk away with the brand new minivan. All right, guys, we've got when played. These cards have a higher win percentage or a lower win percentage than the card compared to. We're going to start with Gilgamesh versus Silver Surfer.
Okay. Gilgamesh Silver Surfer, you had to start off with like 2 closers that are so good. I would venture to say that when played, Gilgamesh wins more often than Silver Surfer.
Okay. Can you explain your reasoning on that and why your reasoning in general when evaluating which one has better when played?
The reason why is because I think that right now, although there is a Silver Surfer deck out there that's performing very good, I think that Zoo is just in such a good spot. I think the buff to Gilgamesh has made him such an amazing vertical power. They've got to be close. But I feel like Gilgamesh is just a very clean closer that's difficult to calculate. Whereas Silver Surfer, I feel like even though you're often playing 3 cards on turn 6, I feel like they can math out like that Brood lane, the Abman lane, and whereas Gilgamesh, I think the power output might be a little higher straight up.
Okay, fair enough, guys. Fair enough. Well, Gilgamesh is 66% to Surfer 64%. You are correct. Gilgamesh, probably one of the more underrated cards within the game. People do not anticipate the massive swing. Zoo gets wide. Gilgamesh goes tall. Boom. Gilgamesh right now actually has the highest win percentage, only losing to Null, who's above him just ever so slightly. If you're playing Null, you probably feel pretty confident you're going to get the win. Next one up is Blob. Win percentage, win played versus Darkhawk.
This is hard. Now, is this post-nerf Blob or?
The last 30 days.
Last 30 days, so it would include Blob when he was going absolutely insane.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, that makes it so much harder. Man, this is hard. This is actually tricky because Blob, original OG Blob, especially when it was being copied by Mystique and everything like that, would have smashed Darkhawk, I think. But now he got nerfed, that interaction got taken away, and it's been a couple weeks of that. My instincts would tell me that Darkhawk has a higher win rate when played.
Guys, Alex finally got one wrong. I mean, the guy was on a heater, man. He was absolutely killing it. Darkhawk 61%, Blob 64%. Kind of crazy. I would have gone with Darkhawk probably myself there. And it's funny that you literally have like counters to each other in a sense. But no, Darkhawk is lower, which is wild because Darkhawk has been known for very, very high win rates. Blob a little bit higher when played at the moment. We have Red Hulk versus Infinite. 2 mega closers.
Man, my instincts would tell me Red Hulk because Infinite, I think, is very choreographed. And if you're staying 8 cubes on an obvious Infinite play, then like you're huffing hopium. I'm going to go Red Hulk. I feel like Red Hulk's got to be the one. And I think that Red Hulk also has that additional reach at 4 energy at the last turn. Although it's showcasing in the hand, I feel like where they put it, or even, here's the thing though, these statistics don't take into account when they don't play Red Hulk when you're expecting it, right? So I'm going to go with my instinct and say Red Hulk.
Guys, he's 7-2. He is 7-2. Is it 8-2? No, it's 7-3. Get this. Infinite is at a 65% win rate when played over Red Hulk. My guess is Red Hulk people are just like, I hope it wins. Infinite, it's like, they're skipping the full turn maybe? I don't know, man. I was pretty shocked by those two, and I'll be honest.
Buddy, the way you said that made it sound like I got it right.
I know.
You're like, oh, he's so right to be wrong. Get wrecked. I was celebrating at first.
7-3. You got 2 more left. You're still fine. You're still looking fine. We're going to finish strong here. Hope Summers versus Ajax.
Oh, I think Hope Summers. Oh, wait. This is bait. This is bait.
Is it?
This is bait.
Okay.
Ajax has seen quite a bit more play than expected. It's
I'll
also
give you
the
a
way
hint.
the Toxic archetype works on turn 6. You know what? I'm going to go with the spicy pick here. I'm going Ajax.
Okay. I was going to give you your hint. You don't want the hint?
No, I don't need your hint.
Okay. I'll keep the hint to myself.
You just accept the fact that I'm 100% correct.
He is, guys. 8-3, Alex is. Hope Summers is only a 0.7% difference, but Ajax is 0.7 over Hope Summers. Kind of crazy, but to me makes sense because Hope Summers is played early before you know if you're going to finish the game well or not, right? So Ajax, bit more of a late play. You have a bit more statistic odds, I think. Correct, sir. Last one, we have Mr. Negative versus Wong.
Oh my gosh. Mr. Negative when played?
It's a heater.
Because here's the thing, though, right? You snap into Mr. Negative on turn 3 almost every single time. They see negative, they leave, right? The retreat equity is huge on Mr. Negative. But nobody's countering Wong, and Wong fits in Nomura decks, but Nomura is not being played at all. Man, this is actually so unbelievably hard.
It's a good one to
and I
finish
wouldn't be
on.
surprised if this is like a 0.3% difference or something crazy. I'm going to lean towards Mr. Negative because I just think that people staring down a Mr. Negative, and they're just not going to let them draw through their whole deck. I think they retreat.
Okay.
I just think the act of playing Mr. Negative scares people. But Wong does the same. This is such a great question. Because if you don't have Cosmo and you're just staring at Wong, you're like, I'm going to get pumped. Like, there's whatever they're going to do, they're doubling up the pumping, right? And I just think Mr. Negative, like, no one beats a Mr. Negative deck on turn 6 or 7, right? Man, it's so hard. But I'm going to go with my instincts. Mr. Negative, locking it in to go 9 right.
Enjoy your brand new minivan. He got it correct. 57% Mr. Negative, 56% Wong. I would say myself, dude, both losing and gaining cubes. Wong is the biggest 8-cuber for me both ways, right? Because for me, my arrogance of going into turn 6 and they double snap on me, I have Wong down. I'm like, what do you have, an Enchantress? And then they do, and then I lose my 8 cubes. But you're correct. When played, Mr. Negative slightly above. Alex is now the owner of a brand new, now 2 cars in a row. Give it up to him and let me know down in the comments how you did on our higher and lower segment today. To end, I want to say these are the least played cards right now in Marvel Snap, Alex. Punisher, Crossbones, Goose, which is wild, and we hope to see that change. And any guess on who's the least played card in the game right now?
Crystal?
Selene is the least played. Crystal is the 3rd lowest win percentage in the game. So you're not far off. Selene, the lowest played right now in the game. Most played, Shang-Chi, Copycat, Mockingbird, Jeff, and Cassandra Nova. Worst win percentage, bottom 3. Who do you think it is?
Worst win percentage? Ooh, it would have been OG Angel, probably.
Okay.
Man, I'm not sure. Was Angel in there?
No. And I'm shocked at one of these, yeah.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
damn. I'm not even sure, Cozy. Morph?
Morph was right above Crystal. So it goes Morph, Crystal, Maximus, Martyr, Ebony Maw, and then Agatha.
Agatha's weird. I think there's some Agatha farming going on, though. There's like some
There's
weird
always a little
Agatha stuff.
yeah, some weird Agatha stuff. But Ebony Maw...
She's probably better than that.
Ebony Maw surprised me just a tad, just with the Sora on decks. I thought maybe he'd have a fighting shot there, but no way he didn't. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you enjoyed today's Snapchat. A lot of great conversation today, and hopefully we at least made it a bit easier if you should get speed or not. My reminder to you is probably save your tokens because, again, you've got a really good week coming up, or month coming up if you don't have that much to spend. And always, you can check out Alex's channel or mine on our review of the cards. And Alex, we'll see you over on your side of the podcast. And as always, till the next one. Happy snapping.